Hey, everybody. Thanks for saying hello. I see a bunch of people already tuned in. So I'm going to adjust my camera first, and then I'll give it a, minute or two, give people a chance to come in, and then we will start. So I'm seeing Washington State, North Carolina, Iowa. You've got the little corn. Haha. When I was in the Air Force, I was stationed in Nebraska at Offutt Air Force Base, which is right over the border from Iowa. I went to there's a little casino in Council Bluffs that I would visit once in a while if I just needed to get away and clear my head, but I did get into Iowa. We've got Texas here, Wisconsin, Ohio, Arizona, Indiana, Mississippi. We got everybody, Key West, Florida, whole country. And whole Canada. We've got Calgary in the house. Awesome. New Mexico, Delaware. All right. We are over 130 people watching. I'm going to give it, another several seconds, give people a chance to get in, and then we'll go. Arkansas, Pittsburgh, Bridgeport, more Washington State. Stephanie, I don't know if you've seen me before. I don't really recognize your name. I went to college in Pittsburgh. I went to CMU. All right. 160. We're about, I'll wait till it's about 2 minutes in and then I'll start. Ottawa, more Canadians. Hello. Cleveland. Yeah, Stephanie says awesome. When I was in Pittsburgh, I love Pittsburgh dearly, but after I graduated, I worked in that U.S. Steel building, which I think it's called something else. When I was there, it was called the USX building, the tallest building in the city. I worked on the 47th floor, and we had the most incredible view right into PNC Park from my boss's office. So Monterey Bay, all my old stomping grounds are represented here. Monterey, I went to DLI. I was an airborne linguist, so I have been to beautiful Monterey. This is like representative of Amy's past residences in the viewership here. Okay, over 200 people, and we're over 2 minutes in, so why don't I stop running my mouth and get into the presentation? Let me share screen, and hopefully the tech gods will be with us. Share screen. I want to share my slideshow window. There we go. Okay. I'm going to trust that the tech gods are with us, because if you were with me for part 1 of this workshop, you might have heard me say that when I share my screen, I can only see my slides. I lose the comments and I lose everything. So you should be able to see my slide in a big window and then a little picture of me in a small window. And I will request that you hold questions. I'm not going to take any questions tonight, but we have part 3, the final part of this 3-part workshop, next Tuesday, September 7th, same time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and I will take questions then. So if you have any questions, just hold them until next time. All right, you know what? I have to hold my keyboard to advance the slide. This is part 2. If you missed part 1, you can watch it on my YouTube channel or the Adapt Your Life YouTube channel. You'll just have to look for it. It was just a week ago. Okay. Breaking fat loss stalls on keto. That is why we're all here. Just a quick disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. None of this is medical advice. I am not treating, preventing, or curing any medical situations. All right. Let's talk about the diet. If you were with me last time, I talked about setting realistic expectations, how to have a healthy relationship with your scale weight, which is going to be up and down a lot over the long-term weight loss process. And I also talked about probably one of the more important things is, are you even stalled? If you're worried that you're not losing weight or you're not losing weight fast enough, are you even stalled? If it's only been a few days or a week or 2 and you haven't lost any weight, that's not a stall. So let's assume you have determined you really, truly are stuck. You are stalled. You're doing everything right. It's been several weeks, possibly even a couple of months with nothing. No, not only no change on the scale, but remember, no change at all also to your size or shape. Because even if your scale weight isn't changing, if you feel that your size is getting smaller, that's not stalled. So let's assume you are really and truly stalled. Now, okay, you're stalled. Great. We've number one figured out. Number two, what are you eating? What's going on with the food? If this is a fat loss problem, the first place we're going to look to is the food. So the number one most common roadblock that I see people hitting up against when they are trying to lose weight on a low carb or ketogenic diet is simply too many carbs. And there's a lot of reasons why people eat too many carbs. One of the first is that, and this is going to come up in roadblock number two, you'll see in a little bit, we tend to use the word keto a lot, right? Keto, ketogenic, and that makes people think that you have to eat a lot of fat. It makes people think you have to be in ketosis. Some people even, you probably have often seen the abbreviation LCHF for low carb, high fat. That's also a problem because it gives equal emphasis to low carb and high fat. When if your body has a lot of fat and you're really struggling to lose that body fat, when it comes to the diet, the LC part of that, the low carb, is far more important than the high fat. And so when I was brand new to this, I mean, I've been following some version of a low carb or ketogenic diet for over 15 years. And when I was new to this, no one even called it keto. We didn't call it ketogenic. We called it low carb because that keeps the emphasis where it needs to be, which is on keeping those carbs low. That's what makes the metabolic switch from you fueling your body primarily on carbs and glucose to primarily on fats and a little bit of ketones. What makes that happen is the very low carbohydrate intake. So it's simply too many carbs. And a lot of this comes because depending on the program that you found or whoever you trust that you've been getting information from to construct your keto diet, many people will tell you that it's okay to count net carbs. And some people do just great counting net carbs, right? Different things work for different people. Plenty of people can count net carbs and get the results they want, and it's great. Many people can't. For many people, switching from net carbs to total carbs is like a little switch. It's such an easy thing to do that makes a world of difference. And for anyone that happens to be new to this, I don't think I have it on here what it is. Here it is. What are net carbs? What even are they if you've never heard that phrase before? When you're counting carbohydrate and you have a food label, it'll say something about total carbohydrate or carbohydrate. The grams listed there is the total carbohydrate in the food. If you count the net carbs, you can subtract from that total carbs, you subtract the grams of fiber and the grams of sugar alcohols, which are sweetening agents that are used to make a food sweeter, but they're not the same as regular sugar. So they have a slightly different effect on your blood sugar and insulin, which is why they're considered keto friendly or low carb friendly. So counting net carbs allows you to subtract the fiber and the sugar alcohols, which works for some people, but it assumes that the sugar alcohols don't affect blood sugar or insulin at all. If you're subtracting them, you're assuming they are totally negligible. They're not totally negligible. And like some people, there are at least 4 or 5 different kinds of sugar alcohols. They're not all the same molecule. Some of them affect blood sugar and insulin more than others. They are known as a general rule to have a higher glycemic impact. And then beyond that, everybody responds to them differently. So even if my blood sugar and insulin don't rise much from one of these sugar alcohols, yours might. And when you count net carbs, you're assuming that none of that matters. You're like ignoring those possibilities. Net carbs also assumes that all the different kinds of fiber have no effect. Where, fiber is supposedly it helps you absorb carbohydrate more slowly, or you don't absorb all the carbs because fiber is a kind of carbohydrate and you're thinking it just passes through. For the most part, that's true. But there are some fibers that they're adding to foods now, not fiber intrinsic to a food, like broccoli has fiber. Almonds and walnuts and asparagus and zucchini have fiber. But they're adding fiber now to low carb ice, keto ice creams and keto bread and keto brownies and cookies. They're adding inulin and cellulose and all kinds of pulpy stuff to bulk up the net carbs. And again, we're assuming that those have either no effect at all, or that if they do have an effect, it's the same in everybody. And that is wrong. It's wrong. And again, some people do really well counting net carbs. Many of us don't. And you, I assume, are specifically watching this to get information about breaking those stalls. This is a very simple change to make that can have a very, very powerful impact to break a stall. So if you're going to count total carbs, you don't subtract anything. You don't subtract the fiber. You don't subtract the sugar alcohols. And it's easier because you don't have to do any math. Amy Berger stinks at math. So anytime Amy Berger gets to not do math, that's a good thing. So you don't subtract anything. It includes all the carbs, even fiber. There's no guesswork. You don't have to you don't even have to check your blood sugar to see, well, does erythritol affect me? That's a sugar. Does xylitol affect me? Doesn't matter if it affects you or not, because you're going to count it anyway. You're not going to subtract it anyway. This is what Dr. Eric Westman, like world famous keto researcher, calls prescription strength keto. That's the total carb method compared to the net carb method, which is like over the counter keto. And Dr. Westman says, there's a prescription strength drug and there's an over the counter strength drug. And they both work, they do, but the prescription strength is just stronger. And that's exactly how it is with total carbs versus net carbs and prescription strength keto versus over the counter. Now, I said for roadblock number 2, we would come back to the calling it a ketogenic diet, or LCHF, and giving equal emphasis to low carb and high fat. So the second most common roadblock to fat loss on keto is overdoing the fat. Again, when I was new, nobody was putting butter in their coffee. Nobody was putting coconut oil in their coffee. You couldn't even really get coconut oil in the store. It was not really popular at all. Maybe like in a specialty, Asian grocery store, Southeast Asian market. MCT oil didn't even exist at the regular store. If you were using MCT oil, you probably had to be in a scientific study to even access. It wasn't available to the general public. So nobody was using this stuff. And we don't fear fat on keto. Finally, a way of eating where I can have butter if I want. I can melt cheese on my vegetables. I can eat the skin on my chicken. I don't have to drain the fat from my ground beef. Finally, thank goodness, we can eat fat. That doesn't mean fat is unlimited. Fat's not unlimited. If you have heard from someone that you have to hit your fat macro, or you went to a calculator and you got special numbers and macros and it's telling you that you have to have X% of fat in your diet, X% or this many calories or this many grams from fat, just forget about that right now. Suck it right out of your brain, delete it. You never heard it. Again, what makes keto work, what flips that switch from you burning mostly carbs to burning mostly fat, which is what we want. We want to be burning fat. It's the absence of the carbs, not the presence of the fat. When you don't, I think it's on my next slide. Burning fat is not the same thing as losing fat. Keto is a fat burning diet. It's not a fat loss diet. And I know some of you just fell out of your chairs. You're like, what? Wait, it's not a fat loss diet? Well, what am I doing this for then? That's my whole purpose of doing this. Bear with me. I'm going to explain. Remember I said what flips that metabolic switch is the absence of the carbs. When your carbohydrate intake is really low, your body shifts from burning carbs to burning fat. If your carbohydrate gas tank is empty, your body has to run on something else. You're not just going to shut off and fall down and die. Your body's going to keep you alive. Okay, there's hardly any carbohydrate coming in. I need energy from somewhere. Oh, I'll just burn fat instead. Great, no problem. But here's wait. Okay, no. I might not have said it. What gets you to burn fat is the lack of carbs. Now you're burning fat, great. But if you're overdoing those dietary fats, if you're overdoing the butter and the heavy cream and the mayonnaise and the cream cheese and the, did I already say MCT oil, the coconut oil, all that stuff, then your body's going to say, okay, I'm already burning fat because there's no carbs, so I'm burning fat, but I've got all this fat coming in from the food. I'll burn that. I don't have any reason to tap into all this stored body fat. Why would I bother tapping into all this stored body fat when there's so much fat coming in right now? That's why the dietary fat is not unlimited. So think of it this way. Keto is a high-fat diet, but, and this is so important, keto is a high-fat diet, but not all of that fat comes from your food. You want some of that high fat coming from your own body. That's the difference in perspective here. So again, ketosis comes from the absence of the carbs, not from the presence of the fat. If it came from 80% fat in your diet, couldn't you eat like 10 bagels, and as long as you slathered them with enough butter and cream cheese to make 80% of your calories, you'd be in ketosis, right? Because, well, you got your fat macro. But that's not how it works. It's not the gobs and gobs of fat that make your body ketogenic. What makes your body ketogenic is the absence of all those bagels. So if you're not hungry, don't eat extra fat just to hit the macro. If you consume excess fat from the food, then you don't have a reason to start breaking down the stored body fat to make up that difference. And so, if it's the end of the day, it's 10 p.m. and, I still have to eat 3% more fat. Let me just grab the mayonnaise and a spoon. No, stop doing that. And I need to clarify that there are some people out there who are eating very, very high fat diets, meaning from their food, very high fat, and they're getting great results. They're losing weight. Everything's going great. Great, good for them. If that's not working for you, if you are struggling with the stubborn pounds, if you are in a stall, or you just want to learn about how to help other people get out of stalls, then that chasing that fat macro, adding extra fat and oil, especially if you're not even hungry, you're just doing it because you think you're supposed to, that's like number 2 simplest and easiest thing to do to start getting the weight moving. So what to do about it? Limit the stuff you're going crazy on. Are you having cream with your coffee, or are you having coffee with your cream? This stuff is not off limits. You can have it, but go easy, especially if you give yourself a little assessment. How much of this stuff are you using? You could either reduce your consumption of these known very, very high fat trigger foods, or just, what did I say? Well, you could eliminate them altogether, take them out of your diet altogether, or eat less of them. So if you are one of those people, and you're not alone out there, if you're prone to like taking that block of cheddar and a knife and just sitting on the couch in front of the TV, before you know it, the whole block is gone. Maybe don't make cheese by itself a meal or a snack. Maybe shred a little bit of cheese on a salad or on your, keto tacos or over your chili or something, or use 1 slice of cheese on a burger patty, but don't have cheese as your snack or meal. Same thing with nuts. Don't sit down with that bag of almonds from Trader Joe's, because you know what happens, that half the bag is going to be gone in 5 minutes. Use it as a garnish. Use it to add crunch to a salad, or in any other, sprinkle it on some meat dish. Don't make a snack out of that stuff. So like I said, Don't be afraid of fat, but be aware of how much of it you're eating. Forget about that fat macro. I have my little bullets are skulls for a reason. Isn't that cute? So yeah, I'm not trying to demonize fat. This is still a yummy, delicious, like we celebrate fat, just it's not unlimited. That's all. It's not unlimited. Ways to substitute. I found for myself a lot of my extra fat came from condiments, ranch dressing, blue cheese dressing, mayonnaise, because my serving, at least in the US, I know some of you are watching from outside the US, a normal serving size is 2 tablespoons. But my serving size is like half a cup. So that's a lot of fat in one sitting. So I have found that a good way to cut fat without even really missing it is to use things that add a lot of flavor with much less fat, in some cases no fat. So any kind of herbs and spices, paprika, curry powder, chili powder, oregano, basil, all that kind of stuff. Hot sauce is a great way to do it. Any kind of mustard except mustard that is sweet, like a honey mustard. Curry paste, they make tons of sugar-free pickles and relish now. Vinaigrettes, soy sauce is a great way. Any of this stuff, just always read labels, because you will be shocked and surprised and horrified where they're sneaking sugar and corn syrup into. So just be aware, if you're buying the stuff, is it sweetened? Because you'd just be surprised. All right, roadblock number 3. I'm sorry, but it's the truth, and it's alcohol. And I am a wine lover myself. I am very much a wine lover. So thank goodness you can drink on keto. You can drink on keto and lose weight, but you have to be intelligent and strategic about it, right? It's not unlimited, that's for sure. Before I get into some of the details with how to incorporate alcohol into your keto diet, if you want to, you don't have to, of course, we have to cover some safety issues, because some of you learn this the hard way because you don't know. Some of you, I hope, if you've never heard of this before, this will save you the pain and suffering some of us have gone through when we had to learn it the hard way. So I guess the first thing, alcohol. Why does alcohol cause so many problems with fat loss? A lot of different biochemical reasons, but the simplest explanation is that it's liquid calories. It's extra calories without filling you up, right? Most of us, if you drink, you're drinking in addition to your food. You're having a glass of wine or 2 with your meal. You're having a beer with your meal. You're not having it instead, and you shouldn't have it instead, but we don't reduce the amount of food we're eating to account for the extra calories from the alcohol. So it's just extra energy. And what did we say about the fat? When there's extra energy coming in, the body has no reason to tap into all the stored energy we're trying to lose. So liquid calories should be the first thing to go, and that includes alcohol if you're really, really stalled. This is why I don't endorse putting butter and oil in your coffee. Liquid calories is one of the easiest things to cut if you're struggling with weight loss. Okay, now to the safety stuff. Your alcohol tolerance when you are on a low-carb or ketogenic diet will be much lower than you are accustomed to. If in your higher carb days, you could put away 3 or 4 glasses of wine and still get up and be conscious and not get behind the wheel of a car, but still be functioning cognitively, you can't do that on keto. Alcohol is going to affect you much more quickly and much more strongly than before. Your tolerance is lower. So go slowly. Do not drink quickly. Pace yourself. Alternate with water, like for every glass of wine you have a glass of water, or maybe 2 or 3 sips of wine, then a couple of sips of water or beer, whatever you're drinking. Do not drink on an empty stomach. That is bad juju. Bad juju. Do not do it. And always have, of course, a plan for safe transportation. Do not get behind the wheel of a car if you are drinking. Okay. So how do we do this? And if you are not a drinker, don't start. Like, I'm not telling you, hey, you can drink. just saying, for some people, alcohol, there's something about alcohol that is like a deal breaker for some people. If like my wine, I can't have my wine. You say, oh, if I can have my wine, then I can stick to any diet as long as I can have my wine. I've even said this probably myself. I could give up rice. I could give up potatoes. I could give up bread. I could give up fruit. Don't take away my wine, right? So anyway, if that's you, if being able to have an occasional drink will be the difference between you doing keto for the long term versus not, we have to learn how to do it safely and strategically and still have you get the results you want. So wine, a typical pour is about 5 ounces. Sometimes it's even 4 ounces, about 113 mils. There's some companies now marketing keto wine or low sugar wine. The fact is, most wine is very low in sugar. You don't have to seek out specialty, extra, more expensive wine that's marketed as keto. Just stay away from the wines that you know are sweeter. A sweet Riesling, a port, a sherry, the fortified, a Moscato, drink something dry and you'll be fine. And people kind of assume that white wine is always sweeter than red. It's not. There are some sweet reds and there's some very dry whites. So just stick, whatever you're drinking, keep it a dry wine and it's good to go. Light beer, I'm not a real beer lover, but there are several different kinds of light beer, at least in the US. They're available anywhere from 2 to 5 grams per bottle, which is really not too bad for a 12-ounce bottle. But if I were a beer drinker, just from what I know about the difference between regular beer and especially like a gourmet sort of microbrew versus a light beer, I would just not drink it. Why bother the light beer? But if you're a beer lover and having a light beer helps you do it, the distilled spirits are actually 0 carb. The stuff like rum, vodka, gin. And the funny thing is, all of these things are made from items that are very high in carbs, right? Tequila comes from what? The agave cactus, which is loaded with fructose. Vodka is what? Potatoes. Rum comes from sugar cane. We got like bourbon comes from corn. I think these things come from corn and sugars and grains. And yet when they're like super, super distilled, they're actually 0 carbohydrate. They are not 0 calorie. And the problem with the hard stuff, with this hard liquor, is not so much the liquor itself, but what we mix it with. The cranberry juice, the orange juice, the blue curacao, the sugary sweet and sour mix. So you want to stick to sugar-free or 0 carb mixers only. Think like rum and Diet Coke. You could even do sugar-free flavored beverages. Crystal Light, you can make Crystal Light pink lemonade or fruit punch. Pour a shot of vodka or rum in that. Instant, sugar-free cocktail. Tonic water, you want to ask for diet tonic because tonic does have, I think, a little bit of carbs in it. And now, because keto and low carb diets are so popular, they actually have commercially available, like mass-produced sugar-free mixers. They make sugar-free margarita mix, sugar-free, Cosmo, sugar-free pina colada, and you just add the alcohol. So there are ways to do it, but just be careful, like I said. And am I right on time? Pretty much right on time. I only wanted to go about 30 minutes. Next time, same time, 7:30 p.m. at next Tuesday, so just a week from today, September 7th. And that is part 3 of the 3 parts. And then I will take questions. So whatever questions you have about keto in general, but more specifically fat loss on keto, next time I'm going to start with 4 lifestyle factors that slow fat loss. Because I'll be honest with you, if somebody's stalled, diet is the first place we're looking. We're going to, okay, this is a way of eating that you are using for fat loss. What are you eating? What are the dietary issues that might not be working so well? Once we hammer out all the diet stuff, if you're still stalled, if you've corrected all those little blips and things still aren't moving, then we've got some detective work to do. So if you are curious about thyroid, we might talk a little bit about sleep and stress, and I'll leave the fourth one a mystery, so you have to tune in. But yeah, going to go beyond diet next time, and then next time I will take all your questions. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully it will let me. I think it automatically stops if I do that, if I just turn it off. Hopefully it does, and now you can see my face. So there shouldn't be any questions, but I'm just going to go through really quick and see. Yeah, I really appreciate you holding your questions, because it definitely helps me. I'm just looking through. So that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Join me next time, and I hope this is helpful. Like if you've been doing any of the stuff I talked about and you're like, oh, I think I see the issue now, I hope it helps. And I will see you next week. Mark your calendar. See you in a week. Good night, everybody. Or good morning if you're watching from Australia.